Chapter 311, Strange. If someone were to visit, it would be Ayn Rand's parents. Why would you visit? Jerome never eats these things. Hurry up and leave with your things. Old Mrs. Mo's tone was hostile, wanting to chase them away. Grandma, we really didn't mean anything. Mojurong isn't well, and I just wanted to express my condolences. I thought that he wouldn't have eaten yet, so I personally made some porridge for him to try. Is that so bad? Besides, Mojurong didn't say anything, so why would Grandma want to chase us away? We didn't do anything wrong. Yaxon started to cry as she spoke, looking as if she was being bullied. What are you crying for? My grandson is doing well here and hasn't died. I hate it when people cry. When Mrs. Mo was frustrated. I suggest you hurry up and leave. I'll take care of Jinrong. You don't have to be worried. Ayn Rand smiled and said, Xu Yanshan looked at Ayn Rand's proud expression and was furious. What about me? Did I say something wrong? Xu Yanshan saw that the entire room was against her, and when she saw Ayn Rand's proud expression, she was extremely frustrated. What are you crying about? Let's go. Your kindness has gone to waste. Xu Yanshan put the porridge away on the table and pulled Yaxon outside. Just then, Ting Young came over for a word round. Sis-in-law, what's wrong? You still have the cheek to ask me? I don't really know what in-laws you have found. Our kindness is wasted, and they dare to scold me when I'm sending porridge. Even your daughter scolded me. They have no manners, making me make this trip in vain. Xu Yanshan was complaining loudly outside the ward. Lu Yu didn't comfort her. She looked at the porridge in her hands and then at Yaxon. Who would visit a patient with heavy makeup? She deserved to be scolded. The ward door was pushed open again and Ting Young spoke. Jinrong is awake? How do you feel? Mom, Dad, why are you here? Aren't you on duty today? Ayn Rand was a little surprised. Jinrong has a heart problem. I've asked the attending doctor, and he said that there isn't a problem. He is my son-in-law, so I came to see him, Ting Young chided. In-laws, don't mind what happened just now. I don't really like them. You are Ayn Rand's parents, and Jinrong's his doctor. It is only right for you to be worried. Old Mrs. Mo stood up and said, Oh, Mrs. Mo, don't be too upset. I have consulted the attending doctor, and there isn't a big problem. He can go back and have a good rest. You should make this clear to us. When Ayn Rand married into the family, you didn't say anything about Jinrong's illness. I won't talk about hiding his identity, but this concerns my daughter's happiness, so how could you hide it? Lu Yu regretted it. She should have investigated Jinrong's background. It's our fault. Jinrong's illness isn't a big problem. It just relapses occasionally. You should know that Jinrong's is past. I really don't have a choice. Old Mrs. Mo's explanation seemed pale and weak. Back then, she was indeed worried about Ayn Rand wouldn't agree to the marriage because of Jinrong's illness. But if they could accept Jinrong jinxing his wife, they could accept his illness as well. Grandma, don't say any more. It's all fault. Mom, Dad, forget it. Now that things have come to this, what else can I say? You should recuperate well. Ting Young didn't want to hear any more explanations, as it would be futile. He would let Mojurong take care of his health so that his daughter could be happy. And it's getting late. Since Jinrong doesn't have any serious problems, you should hurry up and leave. The school heard that you were on leave and called to ask what happened, but we were confused. Tomorrow when you go to school, you'll have to explain things to the teacher, Ting Young instructed. Ayn Rand nodded and remembered Ayn Rand. How does Ayn Rand's matter? He remembered that you have a younger brother? Now that the internet has cleared Ayn Rand's name, but I wonder where the recording came from. Ting Young was perplexed. In-law, since Ayn Rand is signed to a company under the Mo family, we will definitely protect him. Don't worry, no matter what happens, Jinrong will be here and everything will be alright. Old Mrs. Mo comforted them. Ting Young nodded and took Ayn Rand away. Jinrong, are you still thinking about your uncle? Old Mrs. Mo suddenly asked. Jinrong was shocked. It had been a long time since he heard the words of his uncle. so much that he had almost forgotten his name. He shook his head. I know your relationship with your uncle is deep, but it's been so many years. If Anran hadn't mentioned him today, I would have forgotten about him. Old Mrs. Mill felt a little regretful when she thought about him. Although he wasn't her biological son, she had regarded him as her biological son during the years they were together. She didn't expect that none of her 3 sons would be by her side. It seemed like it was destined to be a bleak and desolate night. Anran said so? Mojang frowned in disbelief. Yes, she said you said the name while you were unconscious, Mo-san interrupted. Oh, Master, actually, I find it strange that Mo Shengli suddenly disappeared. Even if he fell into the ocean, could his personal belongings have fallen into the sea as well? Back then, he was also on the ship, and when Mo Shengli disappeared, he had checked his personal items. There wasn't anything missing, except for 2 phones. They all knew that he had 2 phones, and he never took one step without them. Why was his phone missing that day? Mo Jinrong frowned. Back then, he was still young and couldn't remember Mo Shengli's appearance, nor did he have many memories of the scene. Forget it. That person definitely wouldn't be able to live after so many years. The drip is finished, too. Let's go home. Old Mrs. Mo felt mentally and physically exhausted just thinking about it. She was old and wouldn't be able to endure these torments. Outside the hospital, Xu Yanchen gritted her teeth in anger. Old thing, you're chasing me away even before I said anything. Mom, what should we do? That old woman didn't even give us a chance. Yaxin looked at old Mrs. Mo in fear. With her around, she would never be able to get close to Mo Jinrong. It's your fault for not knowing anything but to cry and annoy others. No wonder old Mrs. Mo doesn't like you. Xu Yanshan looked at Yaxin's red eyes angrily. This child couldn't compare to Anran at all. Mo, didn't you teach me to cry when faced with a problem? Those who complain the loudest get the most attention. After being scolded the entire day, Yaxin felt even more aggrieved. That depends on the occasion. You only know how to cry. Go home and find your grandma. Xu Yanshan dragged Yaxin home angrily. Chapter 312, Anonymous Account. Back at home, Zhao Shimi was furious when she heard that they were chased out. Ignorant old thing. You can't tell who's good and who's bad. You've wasted your life. Mom, what should we do now? Xu Yanshan was a little worried and was furious at her disappointing daughter. She had wanted to have a daughter and enjoy her with life. She didn't expect her to suffer so much. What else can we do? We can't appear in front of them, but it makes sense. Even if Mo Jinrong likes Yaxin, he might only be chasing her away in front of that brat Anran. Tomorrow you should go secretly so that no one will see you. Zhao Shimi thought about it, and it was impossible for Mo Jinrong to agree in front of others. Which man wouldn't cheat? If you want to hold a man's heart, you'll have to hold his stomach. Starting tomorrow, you'll train your culinary skills. Don't cry when you don't know anything. Xu Yanshan knew that crying wouldn't work anymore. The most important thing was ability. Yaxin clenched her fist, her long nails digging into her flesh, and her eyes were filled with hatred. It was all Ayn Rand's fault. If it weren't for her, she wouldn't have been scolded today. Damn it. At the Lan family, Lan Ayn returned and ran into her room. When she returned, she received a message from Fatty about the previous incident. What's happening? Compared to the previous one, the medicine this time has a clearer target and better effects. It is more stable and the dosage has been adjusted, Fatty said. You mean in terms of stability? Anran repeated. She vaguely remembered mentioning something about stability to Mo Jinrong. It seemed that he really was Shang Taiyan. Yes, and we have also found a cardiovascular pill in the car last time. We researched its composition and found that it's used as an agena-related disease. This drug is imported and not many people buy it. Mo Jinrong was one of those who bought it. They found it when they were cleaning the car today. It was very clean except for this pill. Got it. Call those who are overseas to come back. It's time to get to work. Now that she knew Mo Jinrong's identity, everything became easier. Since Mo Jinrong didn't produce any fake medicine, the price was very low, and he went for under-the-table transaction. She needed a reason. Boss, we have recently discovered an account. He seems to be revealing some information about Shang Tian's company to us. Is there a mole in Shang Tian's company? Recently, Fatty had unexpectedly received information about Shang Tian's corporation's history and medicine produced. Although these things were anonymous, it made him suspicious. No one would send these things for no reason. This made him suspect that Shang Tian's company had a mole or that there was an enemy helping them. Send me that account. He wouldn't help us for no reason. I want to find out who he is. Enra never believed that such a good thing could happen to her. Perhaps he wanted to use them to get rid of Mo Zhenrong. Soon she received an account from Fatty called Horrifying Sailing. The name was familiar, and she had a hunch that it resembled the story from today. Was it him? She saw the account was probably newly registered and couldn't find anything. This person was very cautious. Probably a veteran. Anran was focusing on her computer when Zhao Shumi suddenly pushed the door open and walked in. Anran, is Zhenrong alright? She wanted to ask if Mo Zhenrong's illness was serious. She didn't want his illness to flare up when Yaxin came in contact with him. If that happened, she might even lose her life, not to mention money. It's alright. Anran shut the computer swiftly and looked at her calmly. That's great. Zhao Shumi closed the door and prepared to leave. Anran smiled and said, Grandma, you seem to be very free recently, and you even have the time to send Mo Zhenrong porridge. If you have the time, why don't you stay at home and clean the house? The stairs are covered in a thick layer of dust. I wonder when rent will be paid. Bastard! I'm your grandma! Do I have to pay rent when I stay in your house? Zhao Shumi panted with anger at the thought. Grandma, I didn't mean you. Aunt and Yaxin don't seem to be focusing on the housework these days. You should persuade them to calm down, especially Yaxin. Her finals are about to start, so don't let her fall behind. Anna slammed the door shut before Zhao Shumi could say anything. You black-hearted thing. Zhao Shumi just scolded her directly. Mom, it's getting late. Let's go to bed. Lyra wanted to talk to Anran upstairs, but Zhao Shumi's face was pale with anger when she saw her. You bunch of ill-mannered people. I heard that Yanshan was chased out of the hospital by you guys. They were sending porridge with good intentions, but you were treating it as ill intentions. Do you think we will poison him? Zhao Shumi was unwilling. Mom, he just recovered from his illness and didn't want to eat porridge at all. You can't force him to eat, right? Besides, old Mrs. Mo isn't in a good mood, so she wouldn't like noise when her grandson is ill. It's reasonable, so don't mind it. Leo could read their thoughts, and she wasn't worried at all. Mo Zhenrong wouldn't be interested in this family. Reasonable? You have to be helping that old thing. I think all of you are blind and can't differentiate between good and bad. Just watch, something will be going to happen. Zhao Shumi returned to her room cursing. Leo didn't mind and knocked on Anran's door. Anran, open the door. I have something to say to you. Anran opened the door with a smile. Mom, what happened? Anran, I know that you grew up in the countryside and that we neglected to discipline you. That's why you keep so many things to yourself and aren't willing to tell us. It's alright. We don't blame you, but sometimes you have to take your life seriously. This happened several times already. Although I was always asked you to discuss it with us, I know that you wouldn't want to do it. We let you down, but you can't do it again. We were really worried about you. Leo spoke gently. Anran smiled. She knew that her parents were saying this because they cared about her. Mom, I didn't tell you because I was afraid that you were worried. Don't worry. I will definitely discuss it with you next time so that you won't have to worry. Seriously, don't fool around anymore. This place isn't safer than the countryside. There are bad people everywhere. You have to be careful. Lierra was worried. Chapter 313, Her Plan. More than a week has passed, and the past few days have been very peaceful. Yaxin had a plan in mind. She couldn't tolerate Anran's arrogant appearance anymore. It was time to hand over to Lian Xiao. Sis, it's the weekend. Why don't we go out and play? Yaxin had a sincere expression that didn't seem fake at all. Yaxin, you're so relaxed. Have you finished the homework? Have you been practicing your culinary skills? Do you want to control the kitchen? Anran smiled and said. Yaxin clenched her fist and forced a smile. Yes, Grandma's birthday is coming up, and I was thinking of making delicious food for her. What would you like to give her? Anne suddenly remembered that it would really be that old thing's birthday in a few days. In her past life, every time it was her birthday, that old thing would hold a big banquet. The situation was like the Queen's birthday banquet. She didn't know what she was going to do this time. She smiled. Grandma is old. Her health is the most important thing. I want to give her a broom. She needs to do more housework and exercise. Jackson looked disgusted, but she was smiling. Sis, you're so funny. It's the weekend. Sis, let's go out and play. I'm meeting a few good friends. How about a bar? I heard that there's a new bar in Orange Street. I wonder how it is. Why don't we take a look? Jackson has friends? That's rare. Anna didn't want to agree to go to such a place, but suddenly several photos of Mo Junrong with a woman appeared on her phone, and there was a lot of alcohol in front of them. She agreed immediately. Sure, let's go to that bar. With that, she lowered her head to reply. Who are you? Why are you sending me these photos? It doesn't matter who I am. What matters is that your husband is with these vulgar women. Aren't you angry? Anna saw that the messages were sent by an anonymous person. She appeared calm and didn't believe Mo Junrong would do such a thing. She immediately called Mo Junrong. Sis, it's great that you agreed. Shall we leave now? Jackson became excited. She originally thought that she needed to put in some effort to persuade her, but didn't expect her to agree so directly, saving herself the trouble. Wait a minute, I'm going upstairs to change. Anne waved her hand and said. Just as she was going upstairs, the call connected. Junrong, where are you? Anne's tone was stiff, sounding like an interrogation. I'm outside discussing something. Mo Junrong spoke indifferently. All right. Anne hung up immediately. He was probably getting used on such an occasion. She located Mo Junrong's phone and realized that he wasn't at the bar, but at KTV. Mo Junrong, if you dare to be with another woman behind your back, I will break your legs. Anne made a vow in her heart and changed into a short blue dress, revealing her long and slender legs. She carried her branded bag and followed Jackson out the door. Let's go to KTV. I'll decide on the location. Anne spoke expressionlessly. Anne didn't think much about it and immediately told Leon Chow the news. You're dead. Jackson smiled to herself. She was going to get her way soon. Starlight KTV. The moment Anne and Jackson appeared, everyone turned their heads. And Jackson knew the gaze wasn't directed at her, but the one beside her. It made her even angrier. Anne, you're going to suffer. Entering the KTV, Anne chose the private room next to Mo Junrong. The room was soundproof, so she couldn't hear anything from the other side. Just then, the waiter returned with drinks and fruits. Miss Lan, these are our free drinks and fruits. The front desk will provide you with the services if you need more. Anne nodded. She wasn't interested in free drinks. She was interested in the room next door. Jackson, I'm going to the washroom. Anne carried her bag and left. This was a great opportunity for Jackson. She hurriedly called Leon Chow and a few men over, tampering with the alcohol and fruits. Next door, Mo Junrong was surrounded by several escorts. Tan Shilin called over. He was extremely disgusted by this method. Mr. Tan, didn't you say that you were here to discuss an agreement? What do you mean by calling these people? Mo Junrong asked coldly. Boss Mo, I picked these people for you with such great care. I heard that old master that your wife is very wise, but I didn't think she understands men. So she isn't around today. You can enjoy yourself. Tan Shilin looked and smiled as he took a sip of his wine, hugging a woman with heavy makeup. Mr. Tan, young master doesn't like women. I'm afraid that this isn't too good, Mo-san said. We're both men. But Lermo has been with your young master for so long. You don't know him well? Tan Shilin had a wicked smile on his face. Mo Junrong was the key to winning this cooperation. He wanted old Master Tan to know that Tan Lin wasn't the only one in the Tan family who could hold up the fort. There was also him. He knows me better than you do, Mr. Tan. Business is business. There's no need to do such things. Besides, I'm already married. You know that. I don't want any scandals to arise. Mo Junrong stood up and sat on the other sofa. It's rumored that Boss Mo doesn't like women, but it seems to be true. He is indeed a good man. Come over and accompany me. Tan Shilin called the women around Mo Junrong to his side. Boss Mo, I hope I can take care of this cooperation. To be honest, the initial decision of the Tan family was made by my niece, Tan Siwen. You should know that she is younger than me, and she is also a lady. How could she shoulder such a big responsibility? I want to be the person in charge of this cooperation. Tan Shilin's eyes suddenly became ambitious. He couldn't lose to a woman. Mo Junrong leaned back with a smile. Mr. Tan, you shouldn't have told me about this. You should have talked to your old man. I'm just the initiator of this cooperation. I can give your family the resources and equipment you want, but you can decide the position amongst yourselves. Mo Junrong crossed his legs, looking indifferent. I've spoken to Old Master, but he doesn't agree. He always thinks that I'm not as useful as that brat, let alone better than that unfiled descendant Tan Lin. I want to prove myself. If Boss Mo was to appoint me as the person in charge, I think Dad would agree. He had lived for such a long time, but the people around him hadn't given him any real power. Instead, they have chosen his niece, which was a dealt blow to his self-confidence. Over the years, he had been following his dad to deal with trivial matters and never been doing anything earth-shattering. This made him very upset. If this matter succeeded, he could prove to his father that he could do it too. Chapter 314, Anonymous Text. This is an internal matter of the Tan family and has nothing to do with me. You can choose whoever you want to be the representative. I don't have any objections. As long as this matter is successfully completed, I don't mind whoever comes the representative. If you want to ask me out because of this, I think I can leave now. Mo Junrong stood up to leave. Wait! Tan Shiling glanced at the women around him. After understanding his intention, several women stood up and walked seductively to Mo Junrong's side, preparing to touch him. Ayn Rand pushed the door open and strode in. When she saw this, she wasn't angry, but smiled instead. Is this how Boss Mo talks about work? Tan Shiling's eyes lit up as he eyed Ayn Rand, amazed. He stared at Ayn Rand with a perverted gaze, walking forward and spoke with interest. Boss Mo, your tastes are really unique. I don't really like the women around me, but you like those who are innocent. They look great, but there aren't many beautiful women like them. Boss Mo, you have a good eye. Why don't we play together? Tan Shiling was about to touch her when Mo Junrong grabbed his hand and twisted it forcefully. She is my wife. Do you have a hobby of snatching other people's wives? Mo Junrong was furious. Tan Shiling looked at Ayn Rand again. He had only heard about her on the internet and had never seen her with his own eyes. He didn't expect the legendary Ayn Rand to be such a beauty. His arm hurt from being twisted, and he turned to beg for mercy. Let go, it hurts. I was wrong, Boss Mo. I was blind. I wouldn't dare to do it again. It's understandable since it's our first time meeting. Junrong, let him go. Ayn Rand sat on the sofa and crossed her legs. With her voluptuous figure, snow-white skin, and exquisite appearance, every woman here was jealous. Mr. Tan, let's continue drinking. A jealous woman walked over and smiled while pulling Tan Shilin. Tan Shiling swung her hand away after he saw Ayn Rand and compared her with the woman beside him. He was disgusted. Boss Mo's woman is indeed different. Tan Shiling sat in his original position with interest. He hugged the woman beside him, shook out his aching arm, and stared at Ayn Rand intently. Ayn Rand, let me explain. It wasn't like that just now. Mo Junrong hurriedly explained the situation, but Ayn Rand didn't seem to care, and she smiled. You don't have to explain. I believe you. It's just was a few photos that were sent by someone who put in a lot of effort. Ayn Rand handed the phone to Mo Junrong. He turned and glanced at Tan Shiling, his voice icy cold. Did you send this photo? He was the only one in the room who would send such photos. Tan Shiling leaned over to look at his phone, shaking his head with an innocent expression. Why would I send such photos? I have a wife too, and these women were carefully selected by me. Why would I send photos to others? It really wasn't you. Mo Junrong was perplexed. It might be one of the Boss Mo's enemies. Ever since Boss Mo exposed his identity, many people have been targeting you, right? Tan Shiling asked as though he was watching a show. Mojang frowned slightly. Who else could it have been? How did he get photos of him and these women? Was there a surveillance camera in here? Mojang turned to look around. The lights were dim and there were a lot of places where they could install pinhole cameras. This was indeed a good place. Boss Mo, don't be agitated. The discussion hasn't ended, so what's the matter if Miss Lan is here? It isn't a confidential matter. Tan Shi-Ling looked at her with a judgmental gaze. Anran didn't mind. I have nothing to discuss. I said that you can decide on your own. I don't have any requirements for the representative. Just hope that we can cooperate smoothly. That's all. Mojang sat beside Anran, feeling uneasy. Boss Mo, you don't have to be scared. My niece is famous for being clingy. I heard about that. The last time she saw you, you had ignored her. My niece would treat you better when you ignore her, but once you agree, she will ignore you. Boss Mo, you're so outstanding, and my niece has taken a liking to you. Even if you have a wife, if you insist on having her as your representative, I'm afraid that there will be fire in your backyard. Aren't you afraid? Tan Shi-Ling knew his niece too well. She wasn't young anymore and had very high standards. It wasn't easy for her to meet an indifferent person who piqued her interest. Mojang was both handsome and rich, so he was a naturally hurt target. Mojang finally hesitated. He wasn't interested in women and didn't want to be causing trouble. Anran tilted her head and stared at him for a moment before smiling. Mr. Tan, if you become the representative, can you confirm the cooperation will be harmonious? Tan Shi-Ling didn't think there was a problem before. It'd be easier if it was just Mojang. That's why I'm here. With Boss Mo's support, what should I be afraid of? Tan Shi-Ling smiled. Zhenrong, I believe you. I have no objections whether you use Tan Si-Wen or not. And it appeared magnanimous, as she didn't want to add to Mojang's pointless troubles. She believed that he wouldn't do that. Because of the results for her past life, she never doubted him. Mojang was silent for a moment before speaking coldly. I don't like people using such things to negotiate a deal with me. If Miss Tan is really as you say, I don't want to add to my trouble, so I can only replace her. Next door, Lian Chao brought the men to KTV. They had been waiting for a long time. What happened? Did she stand us up? Lian Chao was getting impatient. Yaxin was worried as well. Anran was a crafty girl. What else could she expect her to be up to? No, wait, I'll call her. Yaxin called Anran. Sis, where did you go? My friends have been here for a long time. Sis, come back quickly. Anran smiled and said, Yaxin, wait for me a little while more. I'll be there in a while. You guys can sing or discuss how to deal with me first. Sis, what are you saying? We came out to play today. I don't want to hurt you. Or is it because of what happened last time? Yaxin was a little anxious, afraid that she would run away. I wouldn't dare not to forgive my sister. I have something to do now. You guys wait for me. Anran smiled and hung up. Lian Chao frowned. What the hell is that brat doing? Did she escape? Yaxin put her phone away and walked towards the toilet. She said that she was going to the toilet. I'll go take a look. Lian Chao was afraid that Yaxin would run off as well, so she followed. But there wasn't a single person in the toilet. That brat, where did she go? Yaxin stomped her feet angrily, wondering if she was being played with again. Didn't she say that she was coming back? We'll wait in the room. Lian Chao returned in her high heels. Chapter 315, A Good Show. In the room next door, Mojang had just lit a cigarette when Anran coughed, and Mojang hurriedly extinguished the cigarette. Miss Lan, are you meeting a friend today? Tan Shi-Ling smiled. Not really. Anran had a smile on her face. Though the dim yellow light, she could see Mojang, his expression dark. Since they're already here, why don't they play with us? Miss Lan, you can call them over. How about we skip work today? Tan Shi-Ling smiled. He had a purpose. Anran was very beautiful, and believed that her companions were also very beautiful. When the time came, he could get his hands on one or two of them. That wouldn't be good, right? Mojang stood up to leave. He was sick of this place and would rather go out and read a few contracts than waste time here. Boss Mo, it's Saturday. You should relax. Tan Shi-Ling drank the glass of wine the beauty handed him and smiled. Sure, I'll bring them over. Anran smiled, stood up, and walked out. The men next door were getting impatient. Are we still playing? I don't lack women either, a bald man with tattoos spoke impatiently. She isn't an ordinary woman. Let's wait, Lian Chao comforted him. You can't even wait this long? Anran pushed open the door with a smile on her face and walked in with her arms crossed. Everyone was stunned. This woman was too beautiful. They had never seen such a beautiful woman. It seemed like the wait was worth it. Sis, you're finally here. These are my friends, Lian Chao and her friends. Yaxin's eyes lit up and she hurried over with a smile. Anran's gaze landed on Lian Chao. He had the appearance of a small toner. Besides her were gangsters that were lecherous. It's you? Anran, we meet again. I brought a few friends out to play. Lian Chao glanced at the men beside her. The men walked over and eyed Anran lustfully, wanting to get their hands on her. Anran took a step back and smiled. Jinrog's in the private room beside us. He asked me to bring you over to play. How is that? Yaxin was shocked. What a coincidence. This was a good opportunity. She smiled and hit Anran's hand coquettishly. Sis, what a coincidence. Shall we go together? Yaxin's eyes lit up. She had a chance. Yaxin, I don't think I should go. They should be discussing business. It wouldn't be appropriate for us to go. Lian Chao glared at Yaxin. She didn't expect Mo Jinrong to be here as well. She originally heard that they were married and wanted to ruin her, but didn't expect Mo Jinrong to be here as well. Things were going to be difficult. Sis, why don't I go take a look first while you stay to play with them? They're my friends, don't worry. Yaxin smiled innocently. It's alright, there's nothing inappropriate. Let's go. Anran smiled, pushed the door open, and walked out. Yaxin followed behind. The plan was ruined, and Lian Chao had no choice but to follow. Next door, Tan Qilin's eyes lit up when he saw Yaxin following behind Anran. This is... Tan Qilin asked with interest. Are you feeling better? Yaxin kept looking at Mo Jinrong as she spoke. Mo Jinrong didn't reply and walked to Anran's side, wanting to ask why she was staying. This is my sister Yaxin. She's pretty, right? Anran looked at Lian Chao again, but didn't introduce her. Lian Chao certainly didn't like the atmosphere here. It was full of tension. Yaxin, I'm leaving. I don't like it here. Lian Chao turned around. Tan Qilin called out to her. Miss, since you're already here, you can have a seat. Although she couldn't compare to Anran, she was at least better than that vulgar woman around him. He liked her purity. Brother-in-law, I really didn't mean anything last time. Can you shut up? I know you almost killed Anran. Mo Jinrong looked at her with a sharp gaze, making Yaxin a little scared. She trembled and said, I didn't mean it. Are you still blaming me? She appeared aggrieved, and Tan Qilin started to treat her tenderly. Boss, no, she's just a young lady. Don't scare her anymore. He seemed to have read between the lines. Forget it, Jinrong. The incident is over. It's all right. Anran had seemed to have forgotten her generously. But Yaxin knew that it was all fake because Anran would never forgive her. Boss Mo, since you're here, don't leave the room cold. Sing. Why don't you sing in KTV? Tan Qilin picked up the microphone and started to wail like a ghost. Why are you staying? Mo Jinrong asked softly. To watch a good show. Anran spoke softly with a smile. Mo Jinrong didn't know what she was up to and could only wait in silence. Yaxin, why don't you call Lian Chao's friends over to play? Anran smiled and called for a few gangsters to sit beside Lian Chao. KTV was dim and noisy, so they couldn't see the small movements. The gangster sitting next to Lian Chao took advantage of the dim lights and started to play tricks on her. What are you doing? I hired you. Unable to bear the disturbance, Lian Chao stood up and roared. Lian Chao, what did you say? Anran's shocked expression made Lian Chao come back to her senses. The entire KTV turned to look at her and she sat down calmly. It's nothing. It's just a little crowded. Yaxin's thoughts were on Mo Jinrong the entire time, wondering how she could win his heart. But Mo Jinrong seemed to be distracted the entire time, sitting beside Anran. She quietly moved over and sat beside Mo Jinrong at a loss. Jinrong, do you think we should go back to your house or my house? Anran spoke into Mo Jinrong's ears, her gaze deliberately provoking Yaxin. Mo Jinrong was stunned, not understanding what she meant. What's wrong? Whose house? Should I stay at your house? Anran spoke half-jokingly. Anything. Mojang didn't have much of an expression, not knowing what else he could do here. Suddenly, Yaxin mustered her courage and wanted to grab Mojang's hand. Mojang seemed to sense it and immediately retracted his hand, a disgusted expression on his eyes. "Sis, second uncle and second aunt will be upset if you don't go home." Yaxin spoke deliberately. "Sis, you're right. Sometimes it's better not to cross the line." Anran was warning her not to get carried away. Chapter 316, Drinking Game. "This song is great. Miss Lan is so beautiful. Why don't you sing one too?" Tan Shiling handed the microphone to Anran, wanting her to take the cue. "It's alright. I don't know how to sing." Anran declined. "Let's sing a song to lighten the mood. I want to discuss another business deal with President Mo, so I won't be performing." Tan Shiling wanted to touch Anran's hand, but was pushed aside by her. She then grabbed the microphone. "Let me sing Starry in the Sky." The moment Anran opened her mouth, the audience was stunned. This is practically the original singer. Her voice was melodious and moving. Tan Shiling applauded. "Miss Lan, what a beautiful song." Mo-san praised her. "Mr. Tan, is there anything else?" Mojang glanced at Anran and asked absent-mindedly. "Of course, we have settled the matter just now. Does Mo know Shang Taiyan?" When Tan Shiling suddenly asked this, Mojang's gaze became vigilant and looked at Tan Shiling sharply. "I don't know. Who is he?" "I don't know either. Recently, I suddenly realized that Shang Taiyan isn't simple. He seems to be in charge of some company. I've sent someone to check, but they haven't found anything. It would be fine if we didn't have a conflict, but recently he collided with the heart attack medicine I invested in. I heard that the quality of their medicine is both good and cheap. I haven't made any gains yet, so I would like to ask you to help me find out who he is." Tan Shiling smiled. He had been paying close attention to Shang Taiyan for a long time. He didn't have a company or any information, but the medicine's evaluation was very good in the circle of patients. Many people brought his medicine and was said to have good effects. However, they didn't say where the medicine came from, so he had no choice but to look for Mojang. "This has nothing to do with me. Mr. Tan, you should know that I only care about my own territory. I don't care about the rest." Mojang refused, not wanting to be associated with this matter. The Mo Corporation also invests in medical field, including the development of medicine. Doesn't this affect the Mo Corporation? Boss Mo, even if you don't think about yourself, you should think about Miss Lan. I heard that her family owns a hospital, and the medicine in the hospital is a money-making business. Aren't you going to care about your parents' in-laws' business? Tan Shiling seemed to have Mojang's weakness, as he had investigated everything about Anran. "Mr. Tan, my second uncle and second aunt's hospital earn a lot of money. I didn't hear anything about this," Yaxin interrupted. She had to help Mojang in order to win his favor. "Miss Lan, you don't understand us businessmen. Sometimes your second uncle doesn't tell you everything." Anran took Tan Shiling's words to heart. She had just finished singing. Tan Shiling immediately applauded. "I didn't expect Miss Lan's song to be so perfect." "Mr. Tan, I heard what you said just now. I heard about Shang Taiyan. He is a meticulous person, and his actions are watertight. It won't be easy to track him down. Instead of thinking about how to suppress him, I think you should improve your abilities. It's only right for you to become stronger." And then returned to the table and hugged Mojang's arm with a smile. "Miss Lan is right. I really can't compare to him. I just want to ask for your help. If you can help me find him and introduce him, I can learn from him." Tan Shiling cunningly changed the topic. Lian Chao, who was sitting by the side, was bored, but it wouldn't be too good if she left. She might as well disturb them, so she decided to speak boldly. "Some of you here are older than me. I should call you uncle. Since we couldn't discuss this, I have an idea. Why don't we play a game? If Anran loses, she'll have to agree to your request, but if she loses, you won't talk about it anymore. What do you think?" Tan Shiling glanced at Lian Chao. This little girl has quite an idea at such a young age. Okay. Tan Shiling didn't have any objections. In any case, he wouldn't be at a disadvantage. Anran and Mojang looked at each other. It wouldn't be too good for them to decline this matter. If they didn't investigate, It would make them look guilty and raise suspicions. Sure, but I'm participating, so Ayn Rand can't enter the game. Mojang's expression was solemn and cold. Boss Mo and Boss Tyann are both frequent drinkers. I believe you know the drinking game? Lian Chao smiled. She attended bars with her father and was used to the tricks of these people, which she was very familiar with. Miss, are you familiar with this? Tan Shilin looked at Lian Chao, who seemed to be very proficient. She should be an expert. I often participate with my father. Although his position isn't high, he's very good at it. Lian Chao smiled. The person who finishes the wine first will be the loser. The bet is that whoever wins will get to kiss Yaxin, and the loser will be the same as before. Mojang glanced at Yaxin. In fact, it wouldn't benefit him whether he won or lost. Lian Chao was clearly helping Yaxin. Did she know that Mojang couldn't tell? I am not playing anymore. I can help you find this person, but it's hard to say that if I can find anything. Mojang's sudden retreat shocked everyone. Boss Mo, you can't afford to play? It's not like Missy Lan will kiss you. Look how scared you are. Tan Shiling sneered and looked at Yaxin. Although Yaxin wasn't as pretty as Ayn Rand, she was still alright. He wouldn't be at a disadvantage if he took advantage of her. He didn't expect him to suddenly stop. It was so boring. Mr. Tan, these things don't suit me. I've agreed. I am leaving if there isn't anything else. Mojang pulled Ayn Rand, wanting to leave. Tan Shilin suddenly stood up and smiled. Boss Mo, if that illegitimate child asks, you know what to say. The Tan family doesn't want to have any more trouble. Since you intend to cooperate with the Mo family, the matter is settled. After Mojang left, Lian Chao and Yaxin turned to look at each other. What do we do now? That brat ran away again. From the beginning to the end, Mojang didn't even glance at her. Lian Chao, are you sure you can do it? I haven't even touched that beautiful woman. What's the meaning of this? I don't have time to play with you. The bald man by the side had a ferocious expression. He had been sitting at the side for such a long time and hadn't interrupted a single word of their conversation. Moreover, the woman had roared at him, making him lose face. Brother Chen, that was an accident. Wait for the next time. I will definitely fulfill your wish this next time, Lian Chao promised. Young lady, judging from your tone, you don't seem to be satisfied with Ayn Rand? Tan Shilin could smell the hint of discord, but he could make use of this thread. It has nothing to do with you. Yaxin rolled her eyes at him. Tan Shilin walked forward and gently lifted Yaxin's chin to have a look. Chapter 317, Roping In. Little girl, you're pretty good looking. I can fulfill one of your wishes. Yaxin looked at Tan Shiling with a scrutinizing gaze, uncertain if he said was true. Are you serious? Of course, I have my conditions as well. You have to be my informant and get information about the Mo family. It's not too much, right? Tan Shiling thought that because she was Ayn Rand's sister, he could use her. If she could help him get to the top, take over the Mo family market, and annex the Mo family step by step, old master wouldn't look down on him anymore. What do you want? Yaxin looked at Tan Shiling warily. Young lady, you have still a young appearance, and there are many things you don't know. I think you have feelings for Mojang, but he has no intentions towards you. I can help you when the time comes. We will split the gains equally. You can be the young lady of the Mo family without worry, and I won't touch you. Tan Shiling had a sincere expression and didn't seem to be lying at all. When Yaxin thought that it was indeed difficult to rely on herself, with someone to rely on, things could get much easier. Let me think. Who knows if you'll hurt him? Yaxin was still very vigilant. She couldn't trust someone like Tan Shilin. Don't pretend. You don't care about his life. You care about his money. Do you think I can't see that? Think about it. This is my name card. Contact me when you think it through. Tan Shiling took out a name card from his pocket, placed it in Yaxin's hand, and turned to leave. Hey, Yaxin, you have a backing now, but you're still not agreeing? I'll have to rely on you in the future. Lian Chao placed her hand on Yaxin's shoulder and smiled. Don't be like that. We don't know each other at all that well. I wouldn't agree so easily. With that, Yaxin swung Lian Chao's hand away and turned to leave. There was only Lian Chao and the gangsters left in the room. Brother Chen, let's keep in touch again. I'll introduce you guys. Lian Chao took out 2,000 yuan and gave it to the gangster before they both left. In the car, Mojang questioned Ayn Rand. What happened? Have you forgotten what I do? I can find you anywhere. What happened to Yaxon? Mojang had a bad feeling about her today. She's just a scheming girl. Anran spoke casually. Just then, Mojang's phone suddenly rang, and it was old Mrs. Mo's phone. Grandma, what's the matter? Jinrong, why did I hear from the Research Institute that Anran is prohibited from working there? What's going on? Although the Rock City Medical Research Institute isn't our family's, we have an investment. It wouldn't be considered a backdoor entry, and it would be an honor to our ancestor. Why don't you agree? Through their connection, old Mrs. Mo was shocked to hear the news. Grandma, I'll explain this to you when I'm back. I'm very busy now. I'll hang up first. Mojang hung up. Why is Grandma looking for you? Anran asked curiously, looking at Mojang's troubled expression. It's nothing. I'll send you home. A relaxed smile appeared at Mojang's face, but it wasn't that relaxed. Just leave me here. I'm going to the bookstore. Anran didn't want to go to the bookstore. She wanted to go to her herbal garden in the countryside. She had intended it in a long time. Okay, Anran, help me make another appointment with Zero. I need her, Mojang asked coldly. What's wrong? Anran felt uneasy. Nothing. Grandma missed me. Mojang's expression was abnormal. Anran didn't ask further and got out of the car. At the Mo family, old Mrs. Mo was sunbathing leisurely on the chair. Old Mrs. Mo, young Master Jinrong must have a reason. I think that young madam is smart and witty, and he probably wants to keep her by his side. Nanny Wu smiled. That won't do either. A talent like Anran should shine, even if Mojang likes her. He couldn't do that. Old Mrs. Mo raised her head slightly and smiled. Old Mrs. Mo, it's rare for young Master Jinrong to favor young madam so much. This is your blessing. Nanny Wu smiled and carried the fruit. Suddenly, the young housekeeper walked in with a package and lowered her head. Oh, Mrs. Mo, there's a package for you that just arrived. Well, Mrs. Mo was surprised. She never shopped online. So where did the package come from? Did they send it the wrong way? She took it over and saw her name. Wei Hung Ying. She had almost forgotten this name, but someone actually remembered it. She hurriedly opened the package and saw a Hero Band's fountain pen. It was given to Mo Shengli by old Mrs. Mo on his birthday. She didn't expect to see it again after all these years. This is Shengli's pen. Old Mrs. Mo was a little agitated. She hurriedly lifted the package to see if there was anything else inside, but it was empty. What did the delivery guy look like? Old Mrs. Mo hurriedly asked. Young housekeeper shook her head. He was just like a courier, wearing a cap and a mask. I couldn't see his face, but there was a long scar on his arm. Scars? Scars! Old Mrs. Mo grew increasingly agitated. The scar was accidentally caused by Mojang and was left on Mo Shengli's body. He's still alive? How can he still be alive? Old Mrs. Mo muttered by herself, her eyes full of fear. Back then, no one noticed him amidst the violent storm. They thought he was dead all these years. So why was he suddenly back? Old Mrs. Mo panicked, her eyes looking around as though she was scared. Others might not know, but she knew. Mo Shengli had been ambitious since he was a child. Although she didn't say it, she knew it in her heart. She could tell that he was very interested in the Mo family's assets, even though he wasn't saying anything. Oh, Mrs. Mo, is Mo Shengli faking his death? Nanny was suspicious. Feigning death? I wonder, what exactly is he up to after hiding for so long? Old Mrs. Mo thought that she treated him quite well, so he wouldn't be resolute, right? At this moment, Mojang drove into the villa. Jinrong is here, old Mrs. Mo said agitatedly. Old Mrs. Mo, slow down. Nanny Wu helped old Mrs. Mo up. Jinrong, my grandson, your uncle, he's still alive. Old Mrs. Mo handed him the pen and spoke with a trembling voice. Uncle is still alive? Mojang had a strange expression. He looked at the address in his hand. It was anonymous, so it was obvious that the other party had come prepared. Could they be here for young Master? After all, young Master just revealed his identity and has many enemies. Mo-san guessed. No, this fountain pen is Shengli's. I gave it to him back then. Old Mrs. Mo was firm. If Uncle is still alive, why did he appear now? Mojang frowned. He didn't have a deep impression of his uncle and didn't know what kind of person he was, but he heard from old Mrs. Mo that he was probably a powerful person. Chapter 318. Explain the reason. I don't know, Jinrong. I remember your sister's death wasn't an accident. Think about it. Yinger hadn't had a relapse in many years. How did her relapse happen when you weren't around on the plane? She underwent surgery when she was born and had been like that ever since. Old Mrs. Mo shared her thoughts, and Mo Jinrong was a little surprised. He had always attributed Mo Ying's death to his negligence, but now that he thought about it, it wasn't such an odd coincidence. Grandma, are you saying that Yinger... Mo Jinrong didn't dare to imagine Mo Ying's death had something to do with his uncle, whom he hadn't seen in so many years. I don't know, but Yinger's death couldn't have been an accident. Old Mrs. Mo dared to make such a prediction, and she seriously suspected that Mo Shengli was the one who did it. Grandma, don't think about it. Mo-san, go and check the address on the package. Too many people have touched this pen, so we wouldn't be able to find anything. Mo Jinrong instructed. Yes, young master. Grandma, don't worry. You treat Uncle so well. He wouldn't hurt the Mo family. As for why he only came out now, I don't know. Mo Jinrong spoke slowly. Forget it. It hasn't been confirmed yet. Let's not talk about it for now. Let me ask you, what happened at the Wrong City Medical Research Institute? I asked Jin Lin, and he stuttered before saying that it was you. What exactly happened? Old Mrs. Mo's frown eased and asked. It's nothing. I'm just afraid that Ayn Rand might tarnish the Mo family's name. You should know that she is from the countryside. No matter how good her medical skills are, she is still from the country. What if... Nonsense. Jinrong, don't deceive Grandma. I'm old, but I'm not naive. You and I have both seen Ayn Rand's performance in the competition, so I dare to say that there isn't anyone in the Research Institute that can compare to her. This is to bring honor to the Mo family. Don't try to hide it from me. Tell me the truth. Old Mrs. Mo saw everything clearly. With Ayn Rand's ability, she could definitely enter the Medical Research Institute. Mo Jinrong had no choice. Seeing that he couldn't hide it anymore, he decided to reveal everything. You can leave first. I need to speak to Grandma. The people that were around looked at old Mrs. Mo and left sensibly, leaving Mo Jinrong and old Mrs. Mo alone in the room. Tell me, what made you so secretive? Old Mrs. Mo knew the reason wouldn't be a big deal. The two of them talked in the room for more than an hour before old Mrs. Mo gradually figured out the whole story. She frowned. Jinrong, this is illegal, you know that? Grandma, I didn't think too much about it. That's why I didn't let Ayn Rand go. Mo Jinrong was stumped. I told you to let go a long time ago. I've been reminding you all these years after Yinger passed away, but you still wouldn't listen. What should we do now? Old Mrs. Mo was a little worried. If there's no other choice, we might as well not use your laboratory. You can use it to produce things that are authorized. Ayn Rand is very smart. It wouldn't be right if we don't let her in. Grandma, you have to give me some time. It's going to be tricky. Mo Jinrong looked anxious as well. Since Tan Xiling was watching him, he didn't want to make any big movements. I can't wait. I can wait, but Ayn Rand and the Research Institute can't. Autumn is coming, and you should know that people are recruited last time. Ayn Rand is most suitable candidate. Do it as soon as possible, and if you really can't, tell her. I believe she won't hurt you. Old Mrs. Mo speculated. Grandma, you can't. The less people know about this, the better. Mo Jinrong was afraid that Ayn Rand would be hurt because of this, which was something he didn't want to see. Old Mrs. Mo felt heartbroken and helpless. Forget it. I'll talk to Ayn Rand and let her go somewhere else. Old Mrs. Mo didn't know if she could persuade her. Ayn Rand seemed very obedient, but she was very opinionated, and there wasn't anything she could do. After leaving the villa, Mo Jinrong was a little worried. He couldn't hide his identity anymore. Young Master, Shang Tian is in a dangerous condition, Mo-san reminded him. Of course I know. Let's stop producing medicine and conceal our tracks. We'll choose a secret place to do the laboratory. Mo Jinrong instructed softly. Yes, young master. With the Land family, after coming out of the KTV, Yaxin had been uneasy, thinking about the name card. She was resistant to the idea of working with Tan Xiling, but the thought of money moved her. My young daughter, what's wrong? Shi Yanchen looked at Yaxin and smiled. Mom, I'm alright. I was just a little excited to see him today, but he didn't seem to like me very much. Yaxin was a little upset. Shi Yanchen smiled in surprise. Don't be scared. I'm guessing that Mo Jinrong is playing hard to get. He wouldn't show that he likes you, but things would be different after that. Let's spend more effort. There isn't a man who doesn't cheat. Don't worry, Mo Jinrong is a man as well. Don't you believe me? The accent nodded skeptically. Mom, I want to discuss something with you. Young rubbed his hands and walked to Zhao Shimi's side awkwardly. Mom, Yi is going to be sentenced in 3 days. Let's get Yanshan to move out after the verdict is out. I'm tight on cash, I'm afraid. What are you saying? Who is the reason why your brother is in jail? Are you going to chase your sister-in-law and her child away so heartlessly? Is your conscience being eaten by dogs? Zhao Shimi cursed. Mom, you can't say that. It's only right that I take care of you, but Yanshan eats and drinks every day, and her housework is like a drawing. Now that the hospital is in need of money, you really can't take care of her. The hero continued Zhao Shimi's words with dissatisfaction, angering old Mrs. Lan. What has that got to do with us? Your sister-in-law didn't spend much money, right? Her food is worse than yours, and yet you dare to chase her away? Young, what do you mean? Do you think that we're a burden to you? We know that we are living under someone else's roof and have no status, so that we would have been bullied. We didn't say anything, but you still want to chase us away? In that case, let's go. Shi Yanshan pretended to leave, but Zhao Shimi stopped her. Wait a minute. Let's see who dares to chase you away. This is my house, so it's your house too. What's wrong with them taking us in a few days? Without Yi, what else would happen to these two? When Uncle was around, she did not work hard. Aren't they just lazing around and relying on my parents? Why are those who have hands and feet freeloading at home? Yanran heard the noise from outside. Bastard, how dare you scold me? How dare you refute my words? Zhao Shimi cursed under her breath. Chapter 319, Driving Them Away. That's right, having Yanran is bad enough, but you're here to cause trouble? Don't think that you can do anything just because you have a fearless sister. Shi Yanshan was furious when she heard this. She couldn't educate the older one, but she could discipline the younger ones. Sister-in-law, actually, Yanran is right. You should at least find a job. Our family is really tight. Young was on his son's side. He couldn't afford to raise such a bunch of people. I spent my own money when I was staying at your house. How much money did I use? Why are you so stingy? Shi Yanshan was furious at the thought of raising money pitifully for groceries. You spineless man, all you knew is to listen to your daughter. You listen to your son when your daughter isn't around, but you don't listen to me. What an unfiled son. Zhao Shimi was furious. Mom, I used to listen to you. I even listened to whatever you said. Now I have never lived for myself. Yanshan, please pack your bags and go home. Young was full of confidence, looking like he was determined to chase them away. Young, I spoke too harshly just now. We can help you with your housework here, and we won't eat much. Yanshan's attitude softened immediately. How is she going to live with Yaxin if she went home with her? Young, your brother is still in prison. How are they going to live? Besides, I haven't seen you like this before. What is wrong with you? Zhao Shimi cursed. Mom, I could tell that your hearts weren't with us when you were here. Anran told me everything. She didn't hold it against you for installing the camera in her room, but I have to ask, what are you doing? Young asked angrily. Anran had been messaging him about this, and he couldn't let them stay any longer. Did that brat complain? Zhao Shimi glared. Young, we just wanted to see what Anran was doing and are curious about her situation in the room. She is just a girl, and we are afraid that she will go astray, so who are you to monitor my daughter? How could you not know that she has learned? Who are you to do this? If you want to look, then you should do it openly, but installing a camera at home makes you look like a spy. Is this still a home? Young's sudden flare-up shocked them and made them flush with anger. He didn't expect his mother and sister-in-law to do such outrageous things. Mom, Anran is a human. How could you treat your granddaughter like this? She isn't a criminal. I can't let you bully my daughter like this. Please move out. Young suppressed the anger in his heart and spoke slowly. Bastard, so what if I'm monitoring her? She's doing such a secretive thing. Can't I discipline her? I'm doing this for your sake, Zhao Shimi said furiously. Mom, you are my mom. I can't chase you out, but sister-in-law. Sure, Young, I knew that you wouldn't like me. We don't need you to chase us. We can leave ourselves. Shi Yanshan went upstairs to pack up her luggage. Zhao Shimi stopped her and said, Unplace that thing. If you chase her away, then you should chase me out away too. Mom, you're an intellectual, after all. Don't you deserve this logic? Don't you understand this logic? If you want to leave, then leave. I'm going to work first. I hope that by the time I'm back, both of you will have left. Ting Young left without a trace. Grandma, hurry. Yan ran outside and quickly slipped away. Bastards, you bastards. Zhao Shimi was furious. Grandma, it must be Sis. I went to see Mo Jinrong today. I only spoke a few words with him, and yet she treated us like this. Is Sis really angry? It's my fault. Yaxin cried aggrievedly. It's nothing. It's my fault. It's not your fault. She isn't worthy of Mo Jinrong after all. You're the one who can be the young lady of the Mo family. Just you wait. It'll be easier for us to seduce Mo Jinrong if we move out. I am his mother. I should have been compensated. We won't starve to death. Zhao Shimi comforted her with a sad expression. Aaron, who was in the countryside, tended to the herb garden, suddenly received news from Fatty. Boss, Shang Taiyan seems to have disappeared. Aaron thought that Mo Jinrong was hiding something, so she replied calmly, It's alright, I know where he is. Just keep an eye on his goods. The moment Aaron put down her phone, an unfamiliar number appeared on the screen. Lan Aaron, I know everything about you. I need you to cooperate with me, or else I'll expose you. The short sentence was filled with a threatening tone. Who are you? You don't need to know. You only have one choice. In 3 days, help me break Mo Jinrong's safe and send the contacts to the rubbish bin outside your house. Don't think about investigating me, or I'll keep an eye on you. Aaron frowned. This person who had an ability to track her down and keep an eye on her wasn't a kind person. She put down the scissors in her hand, packed her things, and hurriedly left. When she returned home, Zhao Shimi and Xu Yanshan had moved along with their things. The house was much quieter. She returned to her room and turned on her computer, wanting to find more information on this person, but to no avail. Ran called back and realized that the number was empty. This person was very cautious, and she had no choice but to find Mo Jinrong. Mo Jinrong was in the study room, thinking about what old Mrs. Mo told him. He didn't want to believe that it was him, even though he had no impression of his uncle. Why did he have to do this to Yinger? She was innocent and wouldn't fight for the inheritance, so why did he have to kill her? Young master, are you still thinking of the young miss? Mo-san served the coffee. Yes, I don't want it to be uncle. Mo Jinrong frowned. He hadn't seen him in years. What had he become? Young master, if Mr. Mo really comes back, what is he after? Mo-san was still trying to guess. Back then, Mo Shangli was around. Mo-san was still a young boy. He vaguely remembered Mo Shangli being humble and polite. It seemed that he wasn't such an ambitious and ruthless person. You can leave first. Mo Jinrong felt his head hurt. After Mo-san left, Mo Jinrong took out something from his drawer. It was a toy gun, a gift from Mo Shangli. He had kept it since Mo Shangli passed away. Young sir, young madam is here. Mo-san entered the room again. Let her in. Mo Jinrong put away the toy gun, looking exhausted. Anran strode in, seeming to be a little worried. Jinrong, you... Anran was about to speak when her phone rang again. Don't think about revealing anything to Mo Jinrong. I told you, I have eyes. A threatening voice came from the phone. She seemed to have been watched. Chapter 320. Anran looked around and didn't find anything abnormal. What's wrong? Mo Jinrong was confused. It's nothing. Did anyone else besides you and Mo-san enter the study room? Anran asked curiously. No, usually when Mo-san and I go to the office, no one comes over. Mo Jinrong looked at Mo-san. Yes, when young master and I went to the office, there was anyone here, Mo-san replied. What about after you left? Anran asked again. This time, Mo Jinrong didn't reply. He didn't know if anyone would come in if there wasn't anyone around. What's wrong? Mo Jinrong was very puzzled as to why Anran was asking this question. It's alright, I'm just here to see you and I need your help. Anran smiled casually. What? I want to enter the Medical Research Institute. Anran smiled and said, Aren't you very capable? You know everything. Why are you thinking of getting in through connections? Mo Jinrong sneered. I had no choice. Someone deliberately tipped me off and prevented me from entering. I could only come to find you. Anran implied while Mo Jinrong continued to act dumb. I can't help you with this. Firstly, it's wrong to use connections. Secondly, even though I've invested in it, I don't have the right to help you with such a thing. Mo Jinrong refused. He didn't want Anran to touch his matters. Let me give you a piece of advice. Don't do things that you can't accomplish. Since he didn't want you to go in, You should know your place. It's meaningless to waste your energy to try to get in. I like this kind of thing. If Mojinrong doesn't agree, I'm not leaving. Anran sat down on Mojinrong as she spoke. He didn't dodge and wrapped his arm around her slender waist, wanting to kiss her. Mojinrong, you... How is that? You presented yourself to me. Do you think I have no intentions of accepting it? Mojinrong directly kissed Anran's mouth fiercely. You... Watch out for your safe. Anran took the opportunity to say this, and Mojinrong was a little surprised. What was she trying to do? What are you going to do? Young Master Mo, if you're not going to kiss me, I'm going to kiss you back. Anran leaned over and gritted her teeth. Someone is after you. Musan was extremely embarrassed. He was in his 30s and hadn't touched a girl's hand after all. Such candies were both sweet and craving. Get out! Mojinrong returned to her senses and chased Musan away. What did you say? Mojinrong kissed her again. Just be careful. The two of them kissed in the room while Musan secretly peeked through the crack of the door. He even took a photo and sent it to old Mrs. Mo. Ah, these young people these days. My wife, where are you? Musan looked up and sighed with tears in his eyes. After Anran left, Mojinrong rushed to the company to see if the items in the safe were still there. Fortunately, the items were still around, but there wasn't anything special about them. Besides from some precious documents, there was also the company title deed. Does someone want the title deed? What's wrong, young master? Musan asked curiously. It's nothing. These things need to be removed. Mojinrong handed the items to Musan and whispered a new address into his ear. He looked at its safe solemnly and locked it again. After Musan hid the things and went downstairs, he saw Yaksen standing in with a backpack. Miss Yaksen, It's nothing. I'm here to talk to him. Because Yaksen was chased out of the Lan family villa, Shi Yanshan told her to take revenge on Anran as soon as possible, so she could only come over. Young master is very busy. You should go back. Musan smiled. It's all right. I'm just staying to say a few words. Yaksen continued to walk forward. No, Miss Lan Yaksen. Young master is very busy. Musan stepped forward to stop her. Brother-in-law, Yaksen shouted, her eyes full of surprise. Young master, where? Musan turned his head but didn't see Mojinrong. When he turned back, Yaksen had already entered the elevator. Damn it. Musan hurriedly called Mojinrong to inform him that Yaksen was coming, but he couldn't stop her. Before Mojinrong could reply, Yaksen knocked on the door. Come in. Brother-in-law, are you busy? Yaksen smiled, her eyes bright. Mojinrong seemed to have been more handsome. Can't you see? Why are you here? We don't know each other well. Mojinrong spoke indifferently. Brother-in-law, how can you say that? You are my sister's husband, so you are my brother-in-law. Even if we aren't biological, we have some connection, don't you think so? Yaksen walked over to sit beside Mojinrong, who hurriedly stood up. What are you going to do? Mojinrong, calm down. We can get closer. We'll get to know each other soon. Yaksen smiled and walked up to pull Mojinrong. Mojinrong hurriedly dodged. You're not welcome here, he said. You better go. Facing Mojinrong's escape, Yaksen was unhappy, but she endured it. Mojinrong, I know that you have some misunderstandings of me. I didn't mean it. Sis misunderstood as well. I don't have any ill intentions. I just want to build a good relationship with you so that you can help me persuade her. Yaksen burst into tears. Mojinrong was extremely annoyed and said, If you don't have anything to do, you should just leave. Brother-in-law, this is a gift for you. Grandma's birthday's in a few days. I hope you can come. Yaksen took out a box with ties and she had carefully selected and handed it to Mojinrong. Place it there. Mojinrong looked at her coldly, his eyes void of emotion. Yaksen was overjoyed that he accepted her gift. She placed the gift on the table and smiled brightly. Brother-in-law, don't be angry. Sis really misunderstood me. I think you are a magnanimous and sensible person. You wouldn't misunderstand me like her, right? Yaksen took another step closer and grabbed Mojinrong's wrist. Mojinrong couldn't bear it anymore and he flung Yaksen's hand away. Mo-san, chase her out. Don't let her enter the company anymore. Brother-in-law, Mo-san endured it for a long time. He was disgusted. This woman's surface innocence was unacceptable. Miss Lan, please leave. Lan Yaksen refused to leave, and Mo-san forcefully dragged her out. Brother-in-law! Brother-in-law! Yaksen's yelling attracted a lot of attention. Let go of me. I'll leave myself. Yaxin struggled free from Mo San's arm. This was all temporary. Sooner or later, Mo Jinrong would be hers. Yaxin walked out of the Mo Corporation under everyone's strange gaze.